Zachary Taylor spent 40 years of his life in the Army, much of it fighting Indians. He was a Whig, but he wasn't really committed to any particular policy. The only issue he was committed to was keeping the Union together. He once stated he would personally lead an army and hang any secessionists. He was only president for a little over a year when he died in office. He was born on November 24th, 1784, in Orange County, Virginia. His father was a prominent member of the community who owned a plantation. He and his family moved to Louisville, Kentucky. They were in an area where there were Indian attacks, and Taylor claimed that as a child he saw people scalped. His father acquired 10,000 acres of land and over 30 slaves. He was educated at first by his mother, and then he went to small schools and academies, but he never attended college. In 1810, he married Margaret Mackerel Smith, who came from a prominent family. They had 6 children, but 3 died. On May 3, 1808, he received a commission as a first lieutenant from Thomas Jefferson. Taylor purchased a couple of plantations, including the Cypress Grove plantation, and had 200 slaves. He was sent to Indian Territory in July 1811, but was recalled to Washington to testify in a court-martial, not his own. In the War of 1812, most of his fighting was against the Indians who were allied with the British. After the war, he spent a few years as a recruiter for the Army. By 1828, he was again fighting Indians in the Black Hawk War. He was gaining an impressive military record and was sent to Florida for the Second Seminole War in 1837. He was now in charge of all the troops in Florida as a brigadier general and was known as Old Rough and Ready. In anticipation for a war with Mexico, he was sent to the Louisiana border with Texas. He was sent to a disputed area with Mexico in the hope of enticing a Mexican attack. President Polk wanted the Mexican lands and was willing to go to war to get them. Mexico attacked, killing 12 soldiers. Taylor got reinforcements and counterattacked. It was called the Battle of Palo Alto, just a few miles south of Brownsville, on May 8, 1846. Taylor won a decisive victory, and it made him a national hero. In the Battle of Palo Alto, Taylor had 2,300 troops against Mexico's 3,700. In the end, 9 of Taylor's troops were dead and over 100 Mexicans. One day later, the Battle of Rosca de la Palma took place. On his way to Fort Texas, Taylor pushed the Mexicans back into Mexico. Needless to say, there were numerous battles during this war that lasted just under 2 years, but this is a video about Taylor, not the war. Needless to say, Winfield Scott clinched the deal when he took Mexico City. There were some who thought about taking all of Mexico, but we were concerned that we might be expanding too rapidly and the cultural differences between us would be in conflict. In the election of 1848, the Whigs picked the war hero, Zachary Taylor, a man who is thought to have never voted and had no strong political views on much of anything. The only view that he held solid was an absolute resistance to secession. Their vice presidential choice was Millard Fillmore, a former member of the House of Representatives from New York, and he held moderate views on slavery. The Democrats picked Lewis Cass as their presidential candidate. He was from Michigan, a former Secretary of State, and a senator, amongst various other roles. For the vice presidency, they chose William Orlando Butler from Kentucky, who was a former member of the House and a major general in the Army. The Whigs didn't approve of the war with Mexico, yet they nominated a war hero and a slave owner. Van Buren was also running again as a member of the Free Soil Party after being rejected by his former Democratic Party. They wanted to end the expansion of slavery out west. It was mainly a New York party, and he was not even on the ballot in most states. This was the first presidential election to take place on the same day all across the country, on the Tuesday after the first Monday. The election of 1848 was pretty much about nothing. Both sides did their best to avoid the slavery issue. The war was over, and although the Whigs opposed the war, it was now too popular to criticize. Tyler won with 163 electoral votes and 47.3% of the popular votes. Cass received 127 electoral votes and 42.5% of the popular vote. Van Buren received 0 electoral votes and 10% of the popular vote. As a Whig president, he appointed, of course, no Democrats to his cabinet, but he did try to appoint cabinet members from different regions of the country. Taylor would have his traditional meeting with the outgoing president. Polk did not like him. He didn't like that he was not a political figure and did not really have any strong political beliefs. Pope stated that he was without principle or creed. After he took office, the main issue was what to do about the newly acquired land. Would these areas be free states or slave states? Tyler himself, as a slaveholder, had no strong feelings about slavery. He was more concerned about cohesiveness of the nation than he was about the slave issue itself. Both Tyler and his Secretary of State, John M. Clayton, had no diplomatic experience. Fortunately, there was no huge foreign policy issues that America was involved in that time. There was a little row with Britain over Britain seeking land to try to build a canal in Nicaragua, but it was a minor affair. There were getting to be slavery disputes between New Mexico and Texas. Taylor even thought about sending troops between the Texas and New Mexican border. Tyler died in office on July 9, 1850, just short of a year and a half after taking office. He was 65 years old. His wife died not long after that, on August 14, 1852, at the age of 63. There were constant rumors that Taylor was somehow assassinated by pro-slavery Southerners or maybe Catholics or even Jesuits. In 1981, his body would be exhumed and tested with the permission of his relatives. No evidence was found for any of these rumors. Taylor was not in office very long, and outside of slavery faced no pressing issues, so it is hard to determine what kind of president he would have become. He was the third of 4 Whig Party presidents who died in office, so please avoid ever joining the Whig Party if it comes back. Zachary Taylor, at the height of his wealth, was worth about $8 million in today's money. Thanks for listening.